Welcome to Sunspots, where we highlight the many ministries and missions happening on the surface of the sun. That is, the Synod of the Sun. A region of the Presbyterian Church USA, we are Presbyterians in Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Texas, with dynamic and hopeful ministry happening in the name of Jesus Christ. Sunspots are caused by interactions with the Holy Spirit, somewhat like the cap on a soda bottle. Shake it up, and you can generate a big eruption. Happening throughout the 11 presbyteries in the Synod with intense Holy Spirit activity. When that energy is released, solar flares and big impact can erupt from sunspots. Our prayer is that you find inspiration, community, and connection in the sun. Let's get started. Now here's Valerie Young, Synod leader and stated clerk.
Welcome, Jim. So the Reverend Dr. Jim Freeman with us today has served as pastor of Broadmoor Presbyterian Church in Shreveport, Louisiana since 2011. Before that, he served congregations in Pine Bluff, Little Rock, and Searcy, Arkansas. A graduate of Trinity University in San Antonio, where he now represents the Synod to the Board of Trustees, his MDiv is from Union Seminary, where his father and grandfather went, and his DMin is from Columbia Seminary. Family steeped in Presbyterianism.
Lousy Presbyterian.
A newlywed, Jim and Paulette got married in January of 2020. Jim has two grown kids, Lindsay, who lives in the Netherlands, and William lives in San Diego, California. Jim is also a creative writer. His play, Sanctuary, Psalm 84, has been performed in a number of times throughout the Synod, which I got to see in Enid. Jim is among the organizers of Solar Under the Sun, an ecumenical mission that began in 2009. And Jim currently serves as moderator of that board. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Valerie. Good to see you.
We've known each other for a long time.
We have, longer than we probably would want to admit.
Yeah, right. And there are a lot of things we could spend time talking about, but today we're going to talk about Solar Under the Sun.
Right. And I'm excited about that.
Cool. So tell us the story. How did Solar Under the Sun begin?
Well, 2009, there were conversations that had been going on, I think largely because Living Waters for the World out of Living Waters Synod had been doing such good work in places like Haiti, providing clean, potable water, that it had been sort of a joke. Well, for the Synod of the Sun, we ought to do something with solar power. So in 2009, I found myself, because I was very interested in this process, in a meeting with, and I was serving a church in Little Rock at the time, found myself in a meeting with Bill Galbraith, who was the general presbyter of Arkansas Presbytery, with Judy Fletcher, who was the Synod exec at the time, with Chris McRae, the layperson from Fort Smith, and with David Gill, who was the director at Ferncliff Camp and Conference Center at the time, meeting at Ferncliff to discuss the possibilities, what was possible using solar energy as a mission initiative. And it had some bumps along the way, but by and large, that began to form and organize, and Solar Under the Sun has been going for 11 years now, or so.
Yeah, I remember Judy's first time back in the office after that meeting. And she was just so excited about the possibility for the mission.
Her energy and her excitement and her focus really, I think, got it over the top. I think the rest of us were kind of like, yeah, this could work. And she was really, let's stick to this. Let's keep focused. And as a result, I think that's a large part of why we're in existence today.
Yeah, Judy can drive a train.
Well, Judy can be a train. She can get a lot of energy going in the right direction, and she's just rotated off the board, having served another term with us. So it's been very interesting to have her. She and I back, and Chris has never left. So three of us were back together again, and that's been a really cool thing. So there's a lot of the program.
So tell us, for those who haven't heard of Solar Under the Sun, tell us exactly what is Solar Under the Sun.
Solar Under the Sun is a network, mission network of the Synod of the Sun. It is ecumenical, but Christian, but ecumenical. And it also is not, we are willing to work with people who are not in any way affiliated with a religious group or body. The organization of it is Christian and ecumenical, but we're not insisting that people be religious or Christian or whatnot. But our efforts are to witness to the light of the world, which is Jesus Christ, through solar energy as a mission opportunity in the world. And essentially, at the heart of Solar Under the Sun is Solar School, which is a training program, a school that provides the necessary training and information to help people go out into places that lack energy, that suffer from energy poverty, and to provide electricity, a clean, renewable source of electricity for those individuals through solar power. And that's, Solar School is really the heart of the matter. But we are very much indebted to the Synod and very much dependent on the support of Presbyterians, you know, to a large extent, but to the wider ecumenical community as well.
So can we talk a little bit about the term energy poverty?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Yeah, energy poverty is where what you say, and I write it down so that I can remember. Energy poverty is essentially not having access to energy or electricity, or well, electricity is kind of the main thing, but because it is unavailable, unreliable, or unaffordable. We have installed solar power in places where electric power lines could be seen, but where the power was so expensive that the cost of tying in to the electric structure was so unaffordable that the individuals involved could not attain that. And this is, of course, not in the United States. This is in other parts of the world. So energy poverty is where electricity in particular, but other forms of energy are either unavailable, unreliable, or unaffordable. And when that is the reality, then Solar Under the Sun finds itself offering an alternative that is reliable, renewable, clean, and available. And the other piece to this, there's really two aspects to this that I think are really crucial. First of all, 17% of the world has no power. Of
Wow.
The entire world, 17%, almost a fifth of humanity lacks power. And of those who have power, almost 2/5, 38% or so, rely on the burning of wood, kerosene, field waste, animal dung, what have you, to produce the power, the fire that they have as a source of power. As a result, respiratory illness, particularly among women and children, is a greater health risk in the world than malaria or AIDS, and yet gets far less attention as a cause of death or illness. And this is something we didn't even realize getting into this. It's like, well, people need electricity, and we didn't really fully comprehend the weight of the problem from a health crisis. And particularly, again, women and children are most vulnerable to this because they're the ones that spend most of the time confined around fires that are often inside houses or homes, and as a result have to breathe the smoke and the fumes in the case of kerosene. And it's horrible. It's horrible on health. There's also an economic side to this. If you have no adequate electricity, when the sun goes down, you quit working. And as a result, where all hands on deck in the family must be working, where everybody's got to be at it, children cannot focus on education because they're working during the day and cannot study at night, cannot do homework, cannot read a book. because the lights are out. And we've heard stories of children walking miles to get to a street light so that they could sit at the base of the street light and do their homework. Otherwise, they couldn't see what they were doing. And this is just these sorts of things for the developed world, for Americans in particular. We think electricity, you flip a switch. But as you and I have kind of talked about, and others, just think about the last time your power was out and how inconvenienced you feel. Now imagine that all the time. And it, I think, really speaks to what can't you do? There are so many things that can't be done if there's not a reliable source of power. And then add to that the health issues. And this is a big deal.
Oh,
this
absolutely.
is a huge need in our world. So
absolutely. So my next question is, so if the heart of Solar Under the Sun's mission is about solar school, how does one get from the training to helping to alleviate energy poverty in places that is of need?
So let's back up and just define the training to begin with, because that helps us to sort of say where you go from there. The training, there's two tracks, Solar 1 and Solar 2. And Solar 1 is the part of it that's sort of the personal, interactive part. This is where we explain how it best to go about developing a covenant relationship with a group or community that can give you access to where this energy is needed. It also helps you understand how to find locations that are suitable for solar power, and learn how to build community around that effort. So that's the person side of it, and it's a really important aspect to what we recommend that groups would do. Solar 2 is the nuts and bolts, and this is where people, I think, just sort of assume most of the training would be. But this is where we show how to construct a working solar installation that is adequate, and to determine the size necessary, and then to go ahead and do the installation so that it will meet the needs that are being addressed in that particular case. So you've got the sort of the people side, and you've got the technical side, and they're both equally important, and both help to drive the overall project. So if you want to move from solar school out to a project, Solar Under the Sun can help find locations that, or you may find your congregation may have a relationship with a mission project in Mexico or Honduras or somewhere in Haiti or somewhere in Africa. And if you have those relationships, then you come through Solar Under the Sun and you learn the skills necessary to go to that location, develop the covenantal relationship necessary, and do the groundwork necessary to establish the adequacy of the response, and then also develop the tools necessary to go in and install the installation itself, which then meets the needs. And so by and large, that's how you would move from Solar Under the Sun solar school to the mission field. And we recommend that you have someone who has gone through Solar 1 and someone who's gone through Solar 2, at least one in each case, available for your effort, because they're both equally important, and we feel like they both are necessary to help meet the needs. And we can help you organize the trip. We can give you advice on that. I can help with the components that are necessary. But by and large, the ideal situation is you provide the direction and you provide the location, and we help you fulfill the needs to get the work done there.
And the team. So where does the team of people come from?
Well, the team would be, we would recommend that if you're from First Presbyterian Church anywhere, Iowa, for example, or what have you, that you organize a group of people that are interested in doing this work. Send a couple of them at least to solar school. And then those individuals go back and help lead the team from your local community to go and do the mission work. And I think anybody that's ever been involved in a mission effort into some part of the world knows sort of generally how that works, and the excitement and the energy that can provide for those that are involved in the local community that's helping to support it. This is just another opportunity And so congregations or a group of congregations or a presbytery or a group of friends or, the choir from whatever congregation can.
Maybe even a group of churches from a neighborhood, right? Different denominations.
Absolutely. Again, that could be exciting because, again, it doesn't, we're not insisting it involve only Presbyterians or even Christians. It's just a group of people, like-minded people that are interested in helping solve an extremely crucial problem in the world, which should motivate all of us to some level, to some degree, could get together and we'll provide, like I said, provide the training that's necessary to begin meeting that need. There's expense, and this is an expensive proposition. It's not as cheap as it's not as inexpensive as some outreach efforts might be. On the other hand, we see this as a fairly durable response to a really crucial need in the world. And once you've done the work, we hope for 10 years or so. I think I'm right on that term, on that time. This can be an adequate response, and it doesn't need annual update necessarily, although it needs some care and some attention. But by and large, you put this in and it's there for a while, which makes it over time the expense comes way down because of the continued use.
Right. And in some of my limited experience with solar over the years, you've had several installations survive earthquakes. There was one of the earthquakes in Haiti. I think it was a pilot installation or something survived that, and durable. Well,
and in Puerto Rico, we were discovered that after having done solar school in Puerto Rico, and we can talk about that as well, but after the significant damage caused by, and I forget which hurricane it was, that some of our installations were the only electricity available within their areas, and that communities were able to find electricity because of work that had been done through Solar Under the School or Solar Under the Sun, and folks that have been trained there through our solar school in Puerto Rico. So it is durable, and it can be, and it's as long as you care for it, this will provide life-saving power well into the future.
So you mentioned Puerto Rico, but before we go there, what are some of the other locations that solar has had installations?
Yeah, Haiti has been a big part of this. Early on in our history, we were blessed to have Will Howey, who was the executive director of Living Waters for the World, which is a sister organization that has been involved in providing, like I said, providing clean water. What we discovered was that there was a real, literally a synergy between the two, because they were providing the process through which water could be purified or cleaned. I forget the right term, but they were relying on, in some cases, energy output that was not steady or reliable or practical. And often they were having to use diesel or gasoline to run motors to pump water through the process. And what we discovered was that by putting in a small solar installation where they were putting in a large water installation, we could provide clean and reliable energy for that process. And so the two were able to work together. And so we've got a number of installations in Haiti that share the process, and that was very gratifying early on. What we discovered through our work was that our applications are a lot wider, and there are a lot more places that can use electricity the way we're producing it, the solar power, even places that don't need water, for example. So we've also been very active in Honduras, particularly in recent years. And then there's installations in Puerto Rico as a result of the solar school there. We're aware of folks that have gone to Africa and installed, I think, Uganda, and a whole number of places that throughout Central America. part of this is we try to keep track of who has gone through, the graduates through solar school and the places that they've installed stuff, but we don't always know. So exactly where they've been. So there may be solar school taught people that have gone to places that we're not even aware of. But those are some of the. Honduras has been very big for us and something we've been very interested in. And Haiti was a huge success early on.
And what kind of installations are these? Are they lighting up homes, clinics, churches? What does that look like?
Yeah.
Or are they limited?
Yes. Those are the places we have installations associated with. So you find a place where you can put up a solar panel or solar panels, depending on how much power you need to produce. And it gets into wattage and whatnot, which I'm a theologian, not a scientist, so I can't speak to all of that. And the theologian term is sometimes a little iffy, but so let's say there's a church that needs lights at night to hold services and would like to run a small computer and would like to charge cell phones, allow people to charge cell phones. We can meet those needs. We can keep some appliances running. There's some where cooking is difficult because that takes a lot of power and we're not always able to generate that much electricity. But a whole lot of stuff. We've talked about clinics are limited in areas to what they can do because they don't have adequate refrigeration. So we encourage or enable people to keep a refrigerator running, which allows some products, blood products, for example, to be stored safely. And some medicines to be stored safely. So those are things that we're able to do. So water, for instance, a big piece of early on was providing power for water purification. Clinics, churches, and then houses, which is a big deal. If only because we're able to keep lights on in the houses at night, and that gets back to the whole economic issue, and it gets back to the purifying the air, because if you're able to keep the house safe and provide some means for providing heat for the house, for example, then there's not as much need for burning a fire. And kerosene, getting kerosene out of the equation as a lighting source is huge, because that causes a lot of illness for children, the fumes, and we know stories about children that kind of would hunker down over a kerosene lamp or a bottle of kerosene that was rigged to burn with light so that they could study, and then they're just doing all sorts of horrible things to their lungs. So to be able to offset that has been a huge thing. But just to be able to have lights on in a house at night, the security that provides, the economic advantages that provides, huge. So those are the sorts of places that we've been able to we think to be of help by the grace of God.
Amen. So there is other need
Sure.
throughout the globe, right? Are you aware of certain places that, for instance, if someone was really interested in this mission but had no idea where the need was, do you know where those places are? I mean, as an organization, can you help?
We can help and we can point people in the right direction. I think people are aware of this. If they stop to think, my belief is that people are more aware of mission fields than we could be. Potential areas. If your congregation has an outreach, or if your presbytery or your synod or whatever your religious judicatorial grouping is in relationship with some organization outside the United States, then you're probably aware of an area where this could be of help. Because again, you're talking 20% of the human race does not have any power, and 40% of the human race is using a source of power that is detrimental to their health. And if you're in relationship with anyone in the developing world, you probably know somebody that could benefit from the use of solar power. And we can help you develop the skills necessary to really ascertain whether that would be practical or not. But we also know of individuals that we would be glad to put you in touch with. But I mean, the part of the world that needs this this power, we will not meet it in our lifetimes because of the sheer number of people that are involved and in need.
So I know over the years I say you as the organization, Solar has been asked about places within our own country who experience energy poverty. The Appalachians, Native American reservations, which I think most of us know. There are some places there that it really experience energy poverty in a way that the rest of the country doesn't. Is there a way that solar can help them? What is your answer to how can we help them?
When you and I were exposed to need in the Rio Grande Valley of Texas, there's a lot of areas in the inadequate housing that's offered in some parts there. So this is kind of an iffy thing. We're not about solar under the sun is not about getting your church off the grid or getting your house off the grid. This isn't an effort to provide solar power to a place that could get electrical power just by plugging into the local infrastructure. Also, we're not training you to be an electrician who can be certified and go in and address issues in a developed part of the world where there are building codes and building standards that would include electrical standards. That's not what we do. And so, if this is ironic or not, but we're going to send you into a part of the world where they really don't have electrical standards so that you can do the installation and not run afoul of local government regulations. You know, I remember putting a porch on my house at one point and had forgotten to tell the local city government, and they sent an inspector by to make sure that it was adequate, and I had forgotten, and I felt really bad about that. You know, we do that sort of thing in the United States. They don't do that sort of thing in a large part of the world, and this is where we go and you are able to go in and do this simple solar installation. Simple, well, really is in the great scheme of things pretty simple. Solar installation. So if you try to address the United States and you go to a poor neighborhood, you've still got to meet building codes and electrical codes. Except there are parts of the United States that where that is not as applicable. And I'm not completely familiar with Appalachia, for example, what's possible there. We're led to believe that there are Native American reservations where this might be something that could be done. And like I say, you and I heard about some places in some subdivisions, and I use that colonias in South Texas that are, because of the way they've been built on private property, may not require the sorts of standards that the rest of the communities would. And that was something you would have to look into as a group before you went in and started building an installation or electrifying a house. You would need to make sure you weren't running afoul of the local government. And that's an important part. And that's an important part outside the country as well. But we're just aware that there are large parts of the world where you're not going to have that kind of problem like you would in the United States. Mm-hmm. North America and Western Europe probably by and large aren't going to be places that we're as adequate. But again, there are places, and we'd encourage groups to consider that.
I hope you've been enjoying this episode of Sunspots. Most of us, especially in these times, need to hear more about the work of the Spirit, places where the energy has caused a solar flare and made big impact. It could be in your local congregation, your presbytery, or any ministry context. Send that good news and ministry ideas to the Synod of the Sun at Sunspots, SUNSPOTS, at synodsun, SYNODSUN.org. Now back to the show.
Solar's been around for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, there are lots of different efforts within solar that I recall as
Sure.
Ways of attracting people to solar school, or funds development, which is always always a thing.
Sure.
So talking about solar under the sun and the operations of this ministry and how one gets, I don't want to talk about like building, it's because it's not like building a business, right? But
Right.
you are operating.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, in a way it is, right? So
Sure.
let's talk now to the people who might be listening that are interested in what's it been like? What was it like when you got started, and what have you been through, and what's it like now? You and I have talked a little bit about we know that the Holy Spirit is led this group of people, right, to think differently and begin and start this fabulous mission that is literally serving the world.
Right.
How, and not everything's worked though.
No.
Right. I mean, there have been some things along the way that has been like,
Sure.
maybe that's not exactly what the Spirit meant.
Sure.
Maybe there's another way. Maybe there's a way to take this, right? This message or this Holy Spirit redirect.
Sure.
What are some things that Solar has? What are some successes and some frankly some failures that you've learned from and redirected from over the years?
Yeah, we excuse me, failures. I don't know what you're talking about. I think early on, there was this sort of, even though we had Living Waters for the World and Will Howie as guides, there was still we had problems focusing on what exactly was necessary and what was practical. And so we had a bad case of mission creep early on. And I was guilty of this. I think I had to sort of refocus myself, because I'd be saying, hey, great, we can get engineering departments from Presbyterian affiliated colleges and universities to plug in literally, and wow, think of what we could do with a campus, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, that would require more staffing, or that would require, So while there was this tendency to get really excited about other areas, Chris McRae was helpful in saying, look, it's all about really the solar school and the effort to train people to do the work. That's really where we need to start. And so that, I think, was helpful. And Chris has been very important in saying, Chris is the godfather of Solar Under the Sun, and is the member of the board emeritus because of his tireless efforts on our behalf. And I cannot say that strongly enough. He's been so active and so important to what we do. And a tremendous respect for what he's been willing to do and to provide. Just keep it focused. That was a thing early on. I think that the Spirit helped us to learn. Another piece of this was the staffing. We've had a lot of trouble figuring out who needed to be employed and who needed to volunteer. And we've had some really, really good people that have come through positions who have done amazing things, but we would expand too fast. And then we were like, have to sort of reconfigure. And it's been up and down. And we've at times felt like we were setting a bad example as an employer, because we'd say, okay, we're ready to do this. This person can do the training and can organize and can be, on call, and then we would outstrip our resources and want to back up again. So that's been something we've had to work with. And I'm tremendous amount of respect and appreciation for folks that have spent time working for Solar Under the Sun over the last decade, who don't get the kind of appreciation they should, but who have been very helpful in each in their own way. And Elizabeth Breniger is now our programming director, and is one of about 4 jobs that she has inside the Presbytery of Arkansas and the Synod. And many folks will know her as the former moderator of the Synod. She's doing great stuff for us. and we're very appreciative of Elizabeth's work, but a lot of people have gone before her. So that's been part of it. And then the whole notion of fundraising, it's been difficult so we would apply for a grant, and they'd say, well, we're not going to provide money for administrative costs. And we say, but all our costs are almost all administrative, because what we need is staff, and what we need is the training. That the school has certain costs that are involved. We're not actually doing the installations. People, we want to pay for installations. Okay, yes, but the groups raise the money for that, but we can't tell the groups about it because we don't have anybody who's got the time to go and tell groups and speak to groups. And so that's been a difficult slog, I might say, to kind of remind people that just because we're meeting administrative costs doesn't mean we're wasting money on things that we don't need. It's very important that we have this structure so that we can do the things that we do well, which is solar under the solar school, and these outreach efforts that we've got that require structure and require administrative costs. So we've had to kind of learn to address our financial needs in a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways, the mission, your solar's mission itself is wrapped up in is really the knowledge, is the transfer of knowledge then. Sure.
And yeah, because we've learned a lot of lessons over the years, and we've seen how certain on the engineering side, how to best meet certain needs and what our systems can do and can't do. We know a lot more about that than we did early on. How best to go into a community, what communities are ready to go, and where education is going to be more important in laying the groundwork. Yeah, we've got a lot of that process, sort of an administrative process.
Mm-hmm.
But we've also provided part of that mission creep that I talked about. We have benefited a lot from that in the long run. We did try to do some seminars and some advocacy work, and we felt like that might be a really helpful thing to address energy poverty as a primary objective of the organization. And that has not gotten the traction that we'd hoped. So we don't spend as much time doing seminars or outreach or speaking to groups about energy poverty per se. I hope someday maybe we'll get back around to that, because that really is the problem we're addressing head on. But we just haven't been able to kind of find the right traction there. But we do provide and have available Vacation Bible School curriculum that's also good for children and youth pretty much anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to be Vacation Bible School. We've also got curriculum, and all of this is available incidentally through our website, solarunderthesun.org, solarunderthesun.org. And we'll also have information there on what we call the Light Bulb Challenge, which is a way of understanding energy poverty and a way of understanding the work of Solar Under the Sun, and a really neat way to take your own, what most of us are blessed with, which is an overabundance of electrical light, and transfer that into a way of helping to fund the sharing of that blessing with the rest of the world. Count the number, in a nutshell, count the number of light bulbs you've got in your home or in your workplace or in your church. Every light bulb. It's staggering how many light bulbs you've got.
Mm-hmm.
Count those and then contribute $1 per light bulb to Solar Under the Sun to help us provide the opportunity to install maybe 4 light bulbs in a house somewhere in the developing world, which will be a huge economic boon to that family. So
yeah, I've got 4 light bulbs just in this 11 by 11 office of mine.
And you may have more than that, actually, if you start looking at,
Oh, there's one in the closet. That's 5.
Yeah, closet lights. If you got the vacuum cleaner parked in your closet, it probably has a light bulb in the front of it.
Yeah, this little candle up here is an electric candle. It has a light bulb. Wow.
Yeah, and wait till Christmas and you put all the bulbs on your tree, and it's
flashlights and
flashlights, under counter lights, carport lights. It's
incredible.
How many lights are on your porch? Do you have landscape lighting? Can you imagine a family somewhere in Honduras with no electricity looking at landscape lighting, and marveling at the fact that we're able to do that in this part of the world, and they have to quit work when the sun goes down because there's no light at all. And to share some of that blessing that we have with the rest of the world, the light bulb challenge is a way to do that. And all of that's, like I say, and other resources are available on the website. But that's some of how we've grown and learned, and some of the lessons we're trying to share and to make available, and to provide groups with or individuals with.
And speaking of availability, where do these solar schools take place?
Yeah, the vast majority of them, and we've been doing these, I forget which number we're up to, it's over 20 that we've had. The majority of them have been held at Ferncliff Camp and Conference Center, which is the Camp and Conference Center of Arkansas Presbytery in Little Rock. We are mobile, though, now more than we've been in the past, and are looking for opportunities to expand where we hold the school, and are looking for places that might be willing to host us. It's usually a 3 or 4 day school, very tight, a lot of information and a lot of activities, a lot of worship, which takes place in that period of time. There's talk of maybe tightening that up just a little bit more. We maybe could do it quicker. Although again, it's a lot of information that changes hands and a lot of stuff that gets done. But we're looking for the possibility of going elsewhere. And we have hosted a solar school in Colorado, and we've hosted a solar school in Puerto Rico, and we've learned from both of those efforts. And I think made some mistakes in one case that we could not make moving forward, because that's what you do when you fail. As you were pointing out, the Holy Spirit redirects you, hopefully in a gracious way. But yeah, we're open to finding new opportunities for sharing solar school wherever the people are. So if you've an organization or an area where there's because we need, you don't do this for 2 or 3 people. We'd optimally be 18 to 20 would be great. If you've got an area, part of the synod or part of the country where folks would be willing to meet for several days to talk about this, or a few days to talk about what solar power can do as a mission outreach initiative, let us know. We'd be delighted to hear about it.
Wonderful. Yeah. So you mentioned something we hadn't talked about yet. Being an ecumenical ministry, you explained you don't even have to be Christian to be a part of it, but I know that you have people from all over the country who have attended solar school.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. That's really cool. So you really can go anywhere. So what if somebody, could come up with a team of 10 or 20 people that would represent, 4 or 5 different congregations or groups that wanted to send people? You could take a solar team there.
We would have, as long as we can get our trainers, our instructors, as we call them, there, and as long as we can pull the trailer with the equipment, then yes, we have a solar trailer that has all the nuts and bolts and whistles and bells in it, and we set that up and are able to show people exactly what needs to be done. And as long as we can get 4 instructors, I think it is, and a trailer, we'd be okay. So yeah, we'd love to hear about that. Give us an opportunity to expand what we've been doing.
Awesome. And so, yeah, I think the possibilities are huge for
Endless.
that. Yeah. Awesome. So we're getting ready we're approaching the end of our time together. I want to ask you, are there questions you wish I had asked but didn't?
How about questions you asked that I wished you hadn't? Well, let's see. You could ask, as I think you hinted that you might, what do people do now that they've heard this? What do I wish people would do once they heard us talk about it? And I can answer that question. in consultation with our programming director, Elizabeth Brenniger, we've come up with an action list. This is the action list, the Solar Under the Sun list of actions you should take. We want you to pray. We want you to pray for Solar Under the Sun, for all the lives that it seeks to touch and for its viability in the future. We would ask you to come to Solar School, would be the second thing. Send someone from your community, from your church, from your presbytery, from your diocese, whatever, or from your Rotary or Kiwanis Club to Solar School to be trained 1 and 2, which then gives you the skills that you need to develop your own outreach initiative wherever you decide to go. Or go through the training and then let us help team you up with groups that are going to work in places. We have an existing covenant, and this is something we haven't talked about yet. We do have an existing covenant with a town in Honduras, El Horno, Honduras, where we, as Solar Under the Sun, have taken the responsibility to install units for individual houses, for homes. And that has been a tremendous success, or was, until the rainy season arrived really early a couple of years ago and literally washed out the roads, and we were not able to send a team in. That's been about 2 years ago. And then, of course, the pandemic. And initially, we were all set to send some people down there, and they hadn't closed Honduras yet. And we were on the brink of going in March, and then realized that we might be carrying COVID into Honduras, and that would not be responsible, because the places we were going to be, that we go, this town, El Horno, is well out into the hinterlands, and not the hospitals and medics and our clinics and medical folks are not readily available. So that would be irresponsible. So it's been about 2 years since we've been back, and we're feeling that, because that was a commitment we made, and we've not been able to live up to it for some very serious reasons, and are looking eagerly to when we can restore that process and get those remaining homes electrified. So if you don't have a place to go yourself, that may be an opportunity if you're really interested in doing this work with us. So we'd like you to pray, attend Solar School. Also would like you to share information about us, educate yourself through our website and the information that's available there. And then we'd like you to contribute, because we need support. We need your financial support to keep going. And yes, it's mostly for administrative costs, but that's what we do. And we really can't express that strongly enough. We need support that a lot of grants will not address, because it isn't as Elizabeth says, Solar School doesn't sound real sexy, but that's really the nuts and bolts of what we do. And that is an important part, and it needs support. It needs financial support in order to exist, and it's difficult to make it financially support itself. So we do need support. So contribute, and then take the Light Bulb Challenge, or look at the Vacation Bible School curriculum, or the curriculum that comes with the Light Bulb Challenge, and find out ways that you can share that information with others and widen our field of contact for folks. And so those are things, the actions I would like people to take, whether they're members of the Synod of the Sun or not, congregations, organizations, Presbyterian women's circles, whatever, youth groups. Pray for us, come to Solar School, become educated, and contribute.
Awesome. Thank
you. I wish you had asked that question, Valerie. That would have been a good question to ask.
Well, I think in this time of separation, as individuals and congregations look for ways to feel together, Advent, as we await the light of Christ, the light of God, is the perfect time to do that challenge.
Absolutely.
So I would just commend that to all congregations, especially who are looking for ways to feel together in their efforts, and that's a good thing. So cool. And
to think about again the application. solar power can help keep clinics running, medical clinics running during difficult times, such as pandemics, can make homes safer places to be, can provide clean power that replaces burning crops. You know, people suffering from respiratory distress are more susceptible to COVID and its lingering problems. If we can get people healthy, then they can withstand the kinds of diseases that become pandemics. So this touches life in so many different ways, and really, I think the sort of the culmination of a lot of how we understand the gospel as it touches lives. This is this sort of work, and we would encourage people to be involved in it.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And a word of thanks, Valerie, to you, not only for giving me the opportunity to come, toot the solar under the sun horn, as it were, but also for your help in supporting us as Synod leader over the years, and in all the various ways you've worked for the Synod. Thank you for making solar under the sun a part of your focus, which has helped, I think, keep the Synod supporting us, and we're very appreciative of that. So thanks,
Jim. I'm proud to have been a part of the ministry from its beginning, whether it was putting together mailing lists, those dreaded spreadsheets.
Yes.
Or talking about it to crowds of people at Presbytery meetings and other events. I am blessed to be any part of this ministry that I can be. So thank you.
Or texting Jim Freeman and saying, Jim, were you coming to the Synod meeting, and why haven't you read it?
You are always the last to register, but always the one that I can rely on to be there. And I'm grateful for that.
Sure. Just doing my part.
So let's talk about Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Or
sure.
any of your other projects.
Well, Sanctuary is the one that's kind of had the strongest legs. It's coming up on 18, 19 years old, 17 years old. But I wrote that as a part. I got the Lilly grant, a clergy renewal grant years ago. I ended up doing a semester at Yale in their summer writing program. I finished Yale with a perfect 4.0. One class, at any rate. So at any rate, I wrote Sanctuary, which is based on Psalm 84. It's about a group of 6 people trapped in a church during a flood, and it's sort of a lot of the issues that come out of Christian community shrunk down to that sort of small sample size. But been very blessed that it's been well received. I was serving Westover Hills in Little Rock at the time, and we performed it there originally and took it around and did some churches in and around Arkansas Presbytery and elsewhere. Then initially, also Kathy Ulrich, when she was at Fort Smith Central with her husband Tom Ulrich, who's on our board still at Solar, they produced it, which was a real treat for me. And then Christiane Chase, who has been on our board as well as Solar, is big in theater in Enid, Oklahoma, and they produced it, which is where you saw it. Mm-hmm. They brought their production to Shreveport, which saved me having to produce it here. So,
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's been a very cool thing, and I feel very blessed, and that's the sort of thing that I enjoy. I thought maybe when we all locked down, there'd be time to do things, but as most ministers know, you start adding online services or start trying to meet extra needs, and time is actually, there's not as much time as I thought there would be. So I have other projects, but they're kind of on hold right now. I hope maybe this podcast thing takes off. I'd love to jump back in with you on some stuff. So
yeah, well, and another reason why I'm so grateful that you took the time to talk to me today and talk about Solar Under the Sun. And if anyone listening has made it through this entire recording, we can only hope that we will very soon have some sort of old school radio broadcast, maybe of Sanctuary or some other type of thing we've been in conversation about. So I look forward to be able to work on that together.
That'd be fun.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And
Thank
maybe those
you so
5
much, Jim.
do that too. Oh, you bet, Valerie. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to talk about it.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
You too. Bye.
In the Synod of the Son, we believe when we work together across boundaries, we make visible the good news and find wholeness as the body of Christ. In our common calling, we impact lives together. So let's remember to connect with, equip, and empower one another in the name of Jesus Christ today and every day.